Welcome to Sattva Project, Open Heart, Open Mind. Today we have the presence of Dr. Rudolph Bauer. We are very grateful for his kindness in accepting this invitation for this small interview about his amazing work. And Dr. Rudolph Bauer is a PhD and diplomate in clinical psychology and has a practice of existential psychotherapy for individuals and existential consultation for organizations. He was co-director of the Washington Center for Consciousness Studies and director of the Washington Center for Phenomenologic and Existential Consultation Studies. He lives in Santa Monica, California. So how are you? Very welcome, Dr. Rudolph Bauer. Thank you so much for your kindness in accepting this invitation from Sattva Project. Very welcome for your first time live in Sattva Project. So we really admire your work and we would like to share with what is in a deeper and simple way with your own words so people can reach to the meaning of your work more deeply. We would like to ask you some questions, especially about the article we have published in Sattva website, and it is also published by Academia. That is the pure vision and the vision of the Guru, a phenomenology of bewilderment.
Yes.
So, Dr. Bauer, we would like to know, in your paper, you wrote, the Guru is an individual person, and for most people, the understanding that the Guru is not a person has been foreclosed. The Guru is not a person. So, in your view, what is the Guru? Can you please explain in a simple and easy way to understand, in your view, what is the Guru, please?
I love being here. I love talking about the Guru. And of course, when I start talking about the Guru, I also think of the great teachers I've had in my life, you with me, who taught me about the Guru and who embodied that dimension. One of the first, and from many different traditions. One tradition was Kashmir Shaivism. Another tradition is Dzogchen, and also I like all the traditions. And some of these understandings are different in all the different traditions, like in Gnostic Christianity, the Guru will be there. I'm one of the first teachers I'm going to talk about my understanding about the Guru not being a person was Swami Muktananda. And at that time in my life, I met him incidentally in California, not far from here. I was coming, at that time I was director of psychology training at the University of Maryland Medical School and teaching at Hopkins, and very, very academic. And I came to study with Irvin Miriam Poster, who were phenomenologists, which is my other love, in words, how can we work with using experience as the source of our learning, a lived experience, and not just from a theoretical point of view, but how to enter into lived experience. And what does that mean for psychotherapy? And also what it also means for spirituality and experiencing being through our own experience. If we look at being in terms of simply ideas, it's metaphysics. It's very theoretical. If you look at being, how it's manifested in our experience, we begin to feel that sense of presence of being, which makes then it becomes alive, you with me, even though it's still hard to put to words. So I had met Swami Muktananda, and I loved meeting him, but I must tell you the Guru thing was a problem for me, because what does the Guru mean? And of course, also, I'm also aware of the power of patriarchalness in this world. And I was very influenced by Hegel, who wrote a book called Phenomenology of the Spirit. And in reading that book, I began to understand how the patriarchal frame can lead all human beings into the master-slave relationship, where we think that one person has absolute knowledge with me, and then we don't. And some kind of way to enter into a relationship with that person who has absolute knowledge will give us knowledge. So I went, and I also know in dealing with any teacher throughout my entire life, I would always speak the truth no matter what.
Yes.
Is that Number one criteria. So I went to see him and I said to him, Baba, I have great affection for you and I love meeting you and I feel all this energy and light around you and within me. But I must tell you, I'm critical of the guru. And he said to me, first of all, I don't care if you love me. That's not going to get you anywhere here with me. It
Yeah,
really
very
is.
practical approach. Yes.
How do you love your own self and others? Okay, and this your criticism of the guru is you're actually the criticism of your own self. You see, the guru is not a person.
Hmm.
The guru is your own self, your own being, your own knowingness.
Hmm.
The guru is not a person. It is your own self.
So that is what you mean when you say that the guru is not a person. You mean that the guru is yourself.
The guru is myself, but the guru is not my personality.
Yes.
The guru is not my personality. And the guru is not Swami Muktananda's personality, or Lama Tarchan's personality, or all the great teachers I've studied with. And the guru is not a concept. The
Yes.
guru is this inner awareness, that's in you and I right now. And even as we're talking to us, there's your mind and my mind, and there's difference. But at a certain level, if we're entering this awareness together, which we're trying to do,
Yes.
then we can start to feel this awareness, this knowingness, this direct knowingness. And we have thoughts and all. So I'm going to read a poem to you, if you don't mind. Okay?
Yes, please. It's
I
a
love
pleasure.
this poem.
Thank you.
And it's called, and this is from some of these ancient Dzogchen texts called The Guru as Rigpa, the Guru as your awareness of awareness.
Awareness of awareness, yes.
And I'm doing a transliteration of that.
Mm.
My own awareness is the guru. In self-recognition, I take refuge. So I'm taking refuge in my own awareness, literally my own awareness. Not my thoughts, not even my affects, my sensations, which are really there also, but in this inner awareness. I'm doing that. Even I'm again right now. I'm trying to enter that awareness. I take refuge in the guru, which is my own awareness. Darkness to light. Guru.
Yes, guru. Yes.
So in self-recognition, I take refuge. And the awareness of self-liberation is always present in everyone. This awareness at some level of self-liberation, though momentarily hidden, can be obscured. Our own mind can obscure this awareness easily. Most of the time we think we're our mind, you with me, or we're our personality. And we meet a wonderful person who has a great personality, you with me, and we can easily fall and think that is the guru, the personality as such. Very easily.
Yes.
The primordial guru, this primordial guru is always so pure, this primordial awareness, this primordial beingness. And this knowingness of the guru, this knowingness of our own awareness, this knowingness of our own being can open, can permeate us. And it gives protection in every event and in every moment. So to feel this presence arising in us as the most ordinary people, we have to be a little careful about absolutizing it, mythologizing it, or just connecting with some kind of patriarchal fantasy we all have. Even in America, some people think Trump is the guru. It's true. When the widespread purity, the purity of the oneness of existence and appearance, the oneness of being and manifestation, being and appearance, manifests, the blessing of direct perception takes place. So that means as we go into this awareness, we begin to feel this awareness. Like I'm even beginning to feel a little bit more of this connection with you at the level of this awareness. You know, starting to
Yes.
feel this with thousands of miles apart, the most ordinary people, but I begin to feel this connection with you of appearance and being, appearance and existence. And it manifests. And we can call this gnosis or jhana or just knowingness. So then the differentiation of the meditator and what is meditated upon dissolves. The always existence truth of my innermost awareness being the guru. The always existing, and by this truth is not the truth of judgment like yes or no. It's not the truth of the equation of the thing, but rather it's a truth which Heidegger would call aletheia. It's a manifestation. It's an experience. It's not an idea. Belief is not going to help me.
Yes.
I mean, simply jump into belief for some kind of idea. It's rather the experience is what's liberating.
Yes.
The always existence truth of my innermost awareness being the guru provides an abiding stability of the vastness of the pervading essence of events. So with all these different events, the plague right now, and all this stuff happening politically, and yet to feel the stability of this awareness, this guru, this who-ness within me and within you. This feeling of who-ness that arises is not the same thing as my personality.
Yes.
It's not the same thing as my thought. It's not the same thing as my feelings. I'm liking being here. It's not the same thing as the sensations. This feeling arises, this presence. It's a little mysterious at first, but it's a felt sense of this presence arising. And it is a who-ness, this openness, this knowingness, but it's not quite my mind. I like bringing my mind into this because then I can feel this and begin to experience this guru and others and the world around me in events.
Yes.
The better I get, the less prejudiced I am, the more I begin to feel this guru in everything and everyone. Muktananda used to walk around and say, wherever I go, I see the guru. And I would think, oh, it must mean his teacher, you know?
Yes.
And I'm going to be finished in one more second, though. My own nature as consciousness dissolves the very lack of my own knowledge. So the more that I'm in this awareness, it helps me metabolize experiences. Things happen to me. And the power of this awareness is that it metabolizes experience, or the guru metabolizes experience within me. That what happens is the phenomena starts to dissolve and I feel more light and more energy. So there's a process here of liberation through the guru. The guru liberates me from events. It actually helps liberate me from trauma, those experiences that I can't metabolize with my mind alone. But if I can go in and feel this presence arising me, or if I'm with a person like you and I are holding this presence together, then the metabolization of experience is more efficacious. And I'm less fixated and bound on experience. So my body, my speech, and my mind are the very same manifestations of this consciousness, this awareness, just as they are. And that allows me in time that the essence of all the events become free from failure and success. I'm not so located in failure and success. In my mind, I am.
Yeah.
But in this presence, and free from rejection and acceptance. And so in this awareness, everything becomes the play of the essence, the play of the guru.
Means that we ordinary beings, we have the need to transfer the guru to a figure, to a human being, to especially to a father, like a father figure. Yes, to a father figure. And means that guru is behind all that, is just like a state of awareness.
Yes, this field of awareness.
This
And,
field of awareness, yes.
and with Baba, in relating to him, if I went to him as an omnipotent person, like Baba would tell me about this. And the same thing with Lama Torchen, Lama Wangdur,
Yes.
Namke Norabo.
Namkai Norbu, yes.
Yes, you know.
Lama Tarshan Rinpoche, you mentioned.
Rinpoche, you know.
Yes.
Lama Wangdur Rinpoche, you know. Lama Norla.
Yes.
Amachi.
Mamachi, yes.
What? You should go see an astrologer for that. I began really seeing with so many people who I know, who I had a good fortune of studying with many people, and also in phenomenology and having a background, a language of experience. And I began to also to see when the guru is merged with the patriarchal frame, it actually hides the guru. Even if the guru is there in the lama, in the swami, in the teacher, it
Yes.
hides it. Because we also have to need to have an absolute person who has absolute knowledge. And if you think of absolute knowledge, I mean a person who knows the future and knows this and that, though I've been with many, many gurus, none of them would ever claim that. They would laugh at delusion, the patriarchal delusion. And the patriarchal thing is what is meant by transference.
Okay.
Yes,
there is
no
problem. It's very good because it brings me to a very nice question. So you can explain in a very simple way, what do you mean by patriarchy here? By a patriarchy approach or patriarchic frame? What do you really want to mean with that, please?
Yeah. Okay. The patriarchal frame is the frame we have both personally, my mother, my father, and collectively.
Mm-hmm.
We have the generational field that's alive and there, my generational field. But you also have a collective unconscious that Jung was aware of.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
The collective unconscious is very patriarchal. And by patriarchal, we mean the father figure, but it becomes more absolutized as the one who knows. You can think of Constantine, 325. In the right hand, he has the sword, and the left hand, the cross. And we start institutionalizing this.
Mm-hmm.
And religion actually loves doing this, you with me? Of assuming and bringing together spirituality and patriarchalness. And you start having a theocentric frame where God and where awareness and God becomes merged as this father figure with absolute knowledge, and it's personified.
Yes, so that's what you mean with patriarchy here, because most of the people, when they heard this word patriarchic, they immediately go to the gender question and the question between male and female and all of that. But here we are in a, like talking about also the unconscious collective, right?
Yes, and personal too. But there's a symbolic function, and people, and to understand this, we might understand the symbolic function. There's people like Lacan and other very superb analysts, and for many. But there's a certain way it is, and I thought it was just, I understood this because I also had women who I studied with also, who were patriarchal. And it was just, in fact, in my own flavor, when one of my teachers died, one of the persons who took over was a woman. I liked her, but she was completely patriarchal. Patriarchal is not a gender thing. Yes. Just like even the Dakini, where we go, is not specifically a gender thing.
Yes, yes.
To concretize all these with our mind. Our mind goes into a concrete thing, and then we start to lose the freedom of the symbolic realm. And also, when I say the guru is not a person, that last question you raise, because the guru is profoundly personal. The guru is profoundly personal experience.
Yes,
perhaps
it is
beyond.
not a person, but is a profound personal experience, right?
It's not a person, but it even moves me. The most profound personal experience. You with me?
Yes.
And by that, it can be with a teacher, it can be with a child,
Yes.
it can be coming through an animal, it can be coming through tragedy, it can be coming through love. That's why the guru is in everything and everyone. But to see that is, I think, what I am working on, even at this moment.
that's that's very, very interesting. Before I move on for the psychology of transference psychology, I would like to ask you in a simple way, what is phenomenology, please?
Phenomenology is a great philosophy
Yes.
that arose. That's very important on this, because phenomenology is where we base our understanding on our experience. Where it's in. And the philosophies that I love in terms of phenomenology come from people like Husserl and Heidegger, Maynard Boss, and influences psychology very, very much,
Yes.
but as
Yes.
experience. But also, when the teachers who I've loved and who fit for me, it all depends who fits for you, right? Like anything. Were teachers like in Dzogchen, it says Dzogchen is a phenomenological appearance. And the same thing with Casimir Shaivism. They also took place in the 8th century. There was this change in the 8th century because a lot of up to this 8th century, and it started changing. The early philosophies were not phenomenological. They were very transcendental. You with me? Where
Yes.
Buddha is experiencing this great absence of self and absence of being around him. You with me? And felt there was nothing but suffering. You with me? And so he began to take the path of go beyond, go beyond, go beyond.
Yeah.
And he was a real hero. You with me? But he left his family, he left his wife, left the child, and went in the search of how to liberate and free oneself. And he started going beyond the body, he started going beyond desire, and he goes into witness consciousness and starts feeling this powerful witness of being able to be free and yet experience phenomena. But then he went beyond that and he dissolved pure witness into pure being. That phenomena, rather than taking me away from the field of being, in fact, phenomena is the field of being.
That's a very interesting point because maybe many times when some people say that deities appear in many forms, we can take your sentence and apply it here, right?
Yes. The deities that arise, there's
Mm-hmm.
different dimensions to this. One dimension is our ordinary dimension. Hus would call it ordinary life form. And the same thing in Dzogchen and Shaivism, there are these different dimensions of perception, just like our awareness is different dimensions. So
Yes.
one dimension is us sitting here. And if I can see, as the Dakini said to Durjam Lingpa, you and I are indivisible. So the Dakini says to him, there's a you and an I, there's a difference, and yet we're indivisible. And if I can feel this in my life, or you and I can even feel this a bit as we're introducing each other, that we can feel this indivisibility, this presence,
Yes.
and our difference at the same time. Or we can experience duality and non-duality simultaneously. That is great. So these traditions start to bring together, oh, there's duality and non-duality. And rather than being either in duality or non-duality, in these traditions, these incarnational traditions, you're trying to integrate both simultaneously, both difference and oneness at the same time.
Yes. That's really very interesting. I I'd like to go back to like when you mentioned in your article the aspect of pure desire, pure view, pure vision. Can you approach this through a psychoanalytic perspective, please?
Yes, from the psychoanalytic perspective, this came in through Leonard Boss, okay? And Leonard Boss was a Swiss psychiatrist, and also came in the United States to Eugene Genlin's work on experiencing and Carl Rogers' work on experiencing. So there was a convergence where we started to work with the experience. And this came about also because of Heidegger. Eugene Genlin was a philosopher of Heidegger. Menard Boss met Heidegger. All this stuff always comes about personally. And Heidegger, who was a great phenomenologist, and what took between Heidegger and Husserl was this. Husserl was a transcendental phenomenologist. He did the same thing that the great Buddhists did. He dissociated himself from experience and went to a transcendental view. And he would say, what is the wonder of all wonders? Pure being, but he would go to the doorway subjectivity, but eventually he would leave everything. Heidegger challenged that and began working with all phenomena as the manifestation of being itself, and how to see and experience phenomena and experience in phenomena, integrating both our mind and awareness, that we can feel phenomena and being simultaneously. But he had a terrible time in the war. You with me? He was very distracted with Nazism. He had this great truth, and he was for a year, he was a director. He actually, in certain ways, to me, betrayed Husserl, who was Jewish, and all this darkness, which we all have. We can laugh at prejudice as if it's, but prejudice, without pure vision, prejudice will exist for all of us. We can have all these values, but really coming down to it, easily falls apart to shit. Excuse my language.
Yes, this is the compartments of our mind, right? Is the compartment
of my mind, me and you, yes, but them and us. This binary thinking. And part of the reason is too, to have a concrete mind, it's very hard to get out of binary thinking. And so sometimes people teach ordinary people binary thinking, and that is not really good. I think everybody can be stretched and challenged to experience these complex things a bit. That's why the idea of simple words and simple things may not always do the job, frankly speaking, okay?
Mm-hmm.
We all can. It's not us understanding simply, it's that we're raising our awareness because of the relationship and awareness to be open to the symbolic realm.
Yes. Okay. And that's sometimes one of the most difficult aspects, is that people have a lot of difficulty in deal directly with the symbolic realm, right?
Yes, but that is the hard part here. You with me? And I love to be talking about that, how to open that for all of us. Because I think it's easier to open with it an experience rather than philosophical thought.
Yes.
How to do that. But so Menard Boss, Heidegger goes to study with Menard, goes to see Menard Boss for therapy, and he started getting better. He started feeling his sense of being again, because our sense of self and our sense of being are identical. And when I don't have a sense of being, which I have had, I bet we've all had, there's an emptiness that's terrible. It really is the void. We feel like we're falling into this abyss of emptiness. And then we can't stand it anymore, and we're trapped, and terrible things happen for us in the abyss, you know?
Yes.
So then there was a seminar for 10 years that Menard Boss and Heidegger gave, called the Dzogchen seminars. So eventually bringing being back into psychotherapy and existential therapy has been most helpful. It's like bringing humanness. It is true we're our cognitions, but that's a tiny aspect of us.
Mm-hmm.
Is that helping answer that question you're bringing, which is a very important question?
Yes, it's helping.
There's knowing with the mind and knowing with the awareness. In Dzogchen, Kazmir-Shaivism, and certain forms of phenomenology, you want to know there's two modes of knowing. And my mind knows phenomena, my mind does not know being.
Mm-hmm.
I can have a self-concept, but I won't experience it. And then awareness can know being. Go into that. But as soon as I leave awareness, I leave being, and I can't wait back to get back to my little pillow and sit on it, because then I can feel being again.
Yes, means we have a lot of problems in understanding space, understanding the sensation of space.
And integrating everything in that space.
you also mentioned in your article that teachers as guru function. Can you
Yes,
please develop this idea from a psychology point of view?
yes. The guru function is a function of transmission, okay? And in phenomenology and in this tradition, they understand we all have the power of transmission. Compassion, as Tang Rinpoche, one of the great Dzogchen masters would say, or my teacher Irv Poster would say, or Austin Delorier, a great saint, would say, yes, we have this awareness in us. They all were becoming aware of awarenesses and all these things. But compassion or awareness is, I wish you well. I'm wishing you well. I wish everybody well. Okay, thanks. But awareness, we all have this. We don't need permission. We don't need a blessing, is to be able to transmit this awareness to each other, which we do. And when we can transmit our awareness to each other, let's see if we can do that. In Kashmir Shaivism, there's a phrase called Guru Upaya. It has two meanings. One is that the Guru is the method, which is really true, the honor of the Guru in ourselves and others and in our teachers. The other is Guru Upaya means obedience to the Guru.
Obedience, yeah.
When Lama Wangdur first came to our center, he sat down. We were very happy and honored to have him there. He came many times. And he starts telling us about his coming to India with his teacher. I'm sorry for going over. We're not going. With his teacher, who he carried across from India. He was still somewhat crippled. And he carries the guru there. We asked him about the guru, first question. And he always told stories, huh? That which is symbolic function, but easier than philosophy.
Yes.
Then he said he went to Seoul Pema with jungles, animals, tigers, and started growing immediately with where Pama Baba was with the Dakini Mandarava.
Mm.
And started growing. Then his teacher calls him and says, okay, Lama Wangdur, come back and teach here with me. And Lama Wangdur, oh, thank you so much, but I'm not coming. That was an amazing teacher. It was amazing teaching.
Yeah.
The Guru is not a person. The Guru is our own awareness, and we can bring it forth. And there are teachers. It's in Lama Wangdur, in Lama Torchen,
yes,
in you, and all of us. We bring it forth authentically.
Yes.
And
So now I will
yes,
request you to explain from this perspective, like archetype perspective of the guru, this father figure, the patriarchic aspect and frame we already mentioned, and now from an archetypal point of view, how do you bring this?
Yes, it is interesting. There's my ordinary reality, okay? But you and I are multidimensional beings.
Yes.
And so at one level, we can feel the field between us. But there's also this other dimension that is archetypal. You with me? And one dimension is the guru, this archetypal dimension as the archetype. And that dimension, Sambhogakaya dimension, and there's another dimension, Dharmakaya. And one of the prayers in the Enigma tradition I love is this: may I experience all phenomena as a Dharmakaya. May I experience all phenomena as a source. So that means this awareness as source. At this level, I can experience source here, but I can also experience the arising of the archetypical dimension. And the archetypal dimensions are these fields of energy and light that are manifesting us now, that are manifesting awareness in us, that are manifesting our bodies. And there's an infinite range of the archetypes. But just like you and I are personifications of primordial awareness, the archetypes are personifications of primordial awareness at a more profound level. And so the patriarchal archetype, it's a real archetype, and it's a manifestation of primordial awareness, like everything is. You know, primordial awareness manifests everything. Yes. And yet the guru is a manifestation And the Dakini is also Yana Dakini.
Yes.
This feminine dimension, so powerful.
Yes.
And yet, in certain ways, not the quite same thing as the archetypical dimension of patriarchalness. In fact, the feminine dimension at the archetypical level frees us from the delusion of the lack of equality consciousness in a very powerful way. The feminine dimension is equality consciousness, you know, and dissolve and gnosis, and helps dissolve the patriarchal that can cloud and think that we need hierarchy, because in fact there's no hierarchy in being itself.
In space.
Huh?
In space, we don't have any hierarchy in space.
There's no hierarchy. There's no above, there's no below.
Yes.
Actually, there's no heaven and no hell either. But with the hierarchy, there's a certain judgmentalness, that arises. Yes. Heaven, hell, less judgments. In the hierarchy, in the feminine dimension.
Yes. But it's interesting that you mentioned that you have many female patriarchics. That is a very important point also, because from ordinary perspective of a guru, of somebody that everybody needs to follow, to obey this patriarchic item, you see many women being patriarchic, isn't it?
I see. I would say, I'll say that differently. I would say it differently. I think I used the word many. I've had experiences, you with me? I was very happy to have the issue of a female guru, but it wasn't that way. It was very patriarchal. But I've also met others who are not patriarchal at all. And that's why part of what's happening in Dzogchen, as many of the great leaders are dying, I'm seeing some of these female yogis arising. You with me? Sanjay Khandro, Pema Rinpoche, Pema. I see them arising. Amma, I see arising, and just the arising into time now. I had a friend named, I won't say his name right now, Chakrapani Ulao, who was brought Vedic astrology to the States. And he was a brilliant, great, and had many gurus would come to see him. Nityananda, who was Baba's guru, was his guru, teacher. And he's talking about what's taking place now. It's very important, he said, is that it's taking place astrologically also, where there's now for the past 2,000, 3,000 years, there's been a union of religion and royalty and spirituality, the patriarchal. And he said, it's coming apart now, step by step. That is the battle taking part right now. And we see it falling. And you with me? There's a shift in the planet Jupiter or something like that. But now there's an ascendancy of democracy and equality consciousness. That all being is the same. And it says that una voce, as Don Scotus, the great theologian, would call it. And that is what's taking place right now.
Yes. This is not a properly a gender question. It's like a proper a question of behavior, perception.
Perception. And position of perception.
Position of perception, yes.
That's why this whole issue of equality consciousness, liberation, and for sometimes people think liberation was becoming omniscient and omnipotent. You with me?
True, yes, really. Yes.
Oh, I know everything and can do everything.
Yeah, I can do everything. Yeah.
I can do it. Well, and that's going down seriously. You with me? And it goes down seriously because of issues of behavior, and which one day I'd love to go into this topic of sexuality and all these things that we see so much, and how to understand this and look at this. And then, but this equality consciousness frees us from the patriarchal frame, which is ultimately, in psychoanalytic terms, the human superego. And when Muktananda told me that, which shocked me so much, and that was many years ago, 40, and I became more studied in psychoanalytic thinking, he was actually talking to me psychoanalytically. and what truth is and what it's not. Get beyond right and wrong, the judgment of right and wrong,
Yes.
good and evil, better and best, truth and falsity, and begin to experience things in terms of equality consciousness. What does that mean? Which means more this direct perception. And it means that your direct perception has better chance of seeing what truth is, what goodness is, what evilness is, than our superegos, which are very distorted and generationally bound.
Yes. That reminds me of a nice sentence of Shogyen Trungpa Rinpoche, that first thought, best thought.
Yes, yes. Yes.
I mean, it's just that I was hearing your words and I was realizing how much we usually project to the guru. We search outside for something that is already inside, that is in our own nature. But we search outside. We need that. We need rules. We need structure. We need hierarchy. So it's all kind of a projections.
There's a book, there's a text called The All-Creating King. There's a number of translations. It was first translated as The Sovereign Lord by a wonderful woman translator whose name I forget, it was years ago. Then Christopher Wilkins just
Christopher Wilkins.
I love him a lot, and I think I know him a little bit, but I know people who want to have more of a relationship. I'm teaching The All-Creating King. It's really great. Then also Dalby, also from Namkhe Norbu, was the major text that Namkhe Norbu used is The All-Creating King. There's another translation, Jim Balby, one of his translators, translated it. Also an excellent translation, and this is another one. But this opens up with the liberation of spaciousness and the deinstitutionalization of the guru.
Very interesting. The deinstitutionalization of the guru. This is a very good point also to go to this, like, do you believe that this patriarchic perception, archetype, multidimensional aspect, this can lead to unconsciously to a cult personality of the guru?
Absolutely. To me, because I've been with many different teachers, I think part of the thing is going to many teachers, whether studying psychology, philosophy, and experiencing different views, and it does create a cult. And I see people in cults, in Tibetan Buddhism, in Hinduism, in Christian politics, and it happens naturally. And it's not that these are bad people, excuse me, or something's wrong with them, or they're power mongers, or if that would be so simple. But the very contextualization, with me, and the power of the human superego and the human power of transference, you with me, to look for a mother and a father.
Yes.
That's why even in the Christian Bible, unless you leave the mother and father, you cannot enter the kingdom of heaven. And one of the statements in Dzogchen is, I have no more mother and I have no more father.
Yes. That is really very impressive. It's something that I think we should go also in the this question that I have, that is the psychology of transference.
Yes, this is
now all I think this is very important.
There's archetypically transference too.
Yes.
So there is a transference of family, but there's the archetypal transferences. You with me? And the archetypes are very powerful, and they are personifications of the field being itself, which has a wide range to it. And that's why there are certain archetypal, and you can see yogis, people who start becoming possessed by a particular archetype, and then what happens to them.
Yes, that is another very important point, because when you talk about, and if you go from a simple perspective of phenomenology, many people have like difficult understanding. It's difficult for them to understand that if your mind go deep in a perception or projection, it can really get out of the balance very instantaneously, right?
Yes, that is why this whole question in Dzogchen, in Kazmashevism, in certain forms of phenomenology, and also in reading some of the archetypal psychologists, James Hillman. There's some other ones, James Hillman, Henry Corbin, who look at the archetypes where you really want the union of your mind and awareness together. Because awareness is this field of being itself, and it helps hold this. And there's also our awareness at that level. And when you're dealing with the archetypal, if your awareness is in the ordinary world, it's an unevenness there. And this is with heal. You really have to bring your awareness into that level to deal with the archetypal itself. Is that making sense?
Yes, makes totally sense.
They're
That's
multidimensional
really,
people, and they reflect each other all the time.
yes, that is a very important thing, because when we are practicing in some kind of levels and we have to meditate in the guru, and people grasp a lot to that, it's very easy to get lost.
To get really lost.
Yes, this is a very important point.
Goodness is, I've seen so many good people in my life. Good. There's a goodness there, but they suffer unbelievably. You with me?
Yes.
That's why some of these lineages that require understanding, and I'm not talking about anemic academic understanding.
Yes.
This is not that, but where you're working with experience and understanding simultaneously. And it is a work. It is a work.
So it means that, for maybe from a very practical point of view, the question of devotion can be brought here also, because sometimes this is very misleading, this devotion question. Like, you take everything as devotion to please the external guru, so you can reach your inner guru.
Yes.
Can you?
Yeah, that's what Baba hit me. I must tell you, I went there very happy to see him. All these things perhaps, have a certain status in the world at that time. We go to see him, and what are you doing here? What? It's going to get you nowhere.
Yeah.
He threw me right into, and there's a devotion when it's a quality conscious, when you have that devotion with each other, it's like a good relationship. When you have that mutual devotion, it's really powerful and creative. But when it falls into the asymmetricalness, you with me?
Yes.
Of above and below. You can see this with children, people, lovers, people. And then
fathers,
parents. And doesn't mean there's not authority. All these beauties have great authority.
Yes.
It's not patriarchal.
Yes, definitely.
And traditions like Tibetan Buddhism and place situations, some of these great traditions, as this is taking place in the world right now.
Yes.
You can see this whole thing taking place in the United States. It takes a courage not to get usurped by the patriarchal power, which often uses terror at some level also, even in monasteries.
Yes.
Fear.
Control.
Yes. Which even at death, when you look at death and how to understand death, is very important with this. Because with death, from one point of view, it's free of heavens and hells. And another point of view, you have people worrying about, perhaps that's another discussion sometimes.
Yes. And I was also realizing that it's very easy for us to search for this and that, always searching for this and that. And then it's very difficult to relate with the phenomena.
It makes it impossible.
Yes.
That's why this and that. And even about teachers, even you want to teachers who have this and they have that.
Yes.
What does that mean? You with me? And how to understand that, you with me, in this time, or how to understand it, even our own selves, this and that. And because actually I have this and I have that. You have this and that. And people hearing this have this and that. And how to hold this and synthesize it with me and be free in spite of this and in spite of that, or in light of this and in light of that.
Yes. And that's very easy to do, again, transference, right? To always be projection, transferring our thoughts, transferring our feelings, transferring our emotion, the ideas and images we have.
Transferring our goodness, transferring our goodness.
Yes.
Transferring our goodness or transferring our badness. But that's why transference is really part of this whole understanding.
Yes. Can you please go deeper in very simple words about what is the psychology of transference? That is mainly what happens with our misunderstanding of the guru.
Yes. Transference means, for instance, I'll just talk it this way. There are many studies about the authoritarian personality, the need for authority. Yes. And like many of Trump's followers, okay, are authoritarian personalities. And we have this, or even in religion. Authority, how can we take authorship into our own hands from the very beginning? How to take authorship, and not that we don't have many vehicles of truth to us, but we often give the authorship and the authority to another person, and we're dependent on their authority for our existence. And we're dependent on their wisdom for our existence, and we are projecting out what's possibly really in us without going into it and discovering it with our own self, with their help. Mm-hmm. It is a transference of our own authorship to an others because of our lack of ownership of what's in us or experience of what's in us.
Means that we have a lot of difficulty in understanding that we have Buddha nature. We just say it, but we don't realize it or understanding at all.
We don't understand it. and also a lot of institutions, everything, the word hermeneutics is the word I like. And the word hermeneutic for me means we all learn over time. That's why Buddhism, early Buddhism, is not quite the same as in the 6th century BC to the 1st or 2nd century when Nagarjuna comes up. As another whole thing starts to open up as the Mahayana archetypes and openness. You with me? And then that goes into another level where we go into the Tara Tantra and then in Dzogchen. So there's this unfolding more and more where it's out there, believing here, until it becomes very much eminence.
Eminence, yes.
Eminence, the drama between transcendentalism and eminence. All that takes time. It takes time developmentally, but it takes time historically.
Yes. And it has a context also, because all happens in time, according to a context. But the idea of time also can be maybe, can you explain a bit about the idea of time and the phenomenology, please?
Yes. I spent a year at an institute called the Institute of Time Perspective in Leuven, trying to study time. There's a manifestation. Manifestation is time. Right now, you and I are in manifestations. We're manifesting and being manifested right now, and it's moving and it's right.
Yes.
Like, it's the power of manifestation is time, and it's appearing and disappearing, even
appearing and disappearing, just
even
like
as we
the phenomena, just like the phenomena.
It's appearing and disappearing simultaneously, and yet, what is remaining, even in the appearing and disappearing, is this timelessness.
And maybe that's because of this also, that many times we have a lot of difficulty with dealing with the guru, not only from an external point of view, and we jump guru to guru, like, oh, this doesn't fit, let me good this.
Yes, yes.
Because we cannot look at the mind with the mind, right?
Yes. Or we cannot look at the guru in the union of our mind and awareness. You with me? For instance, some people I've looked at, every teacher's been the guru for me in a way. You with me? Every teacher's the guru.
Yes.
Because every teacher's been the guru for me, because the guru is the power of the body of light manifesting in all of us, just as we are.
Mm.
In equality consciousness, I will never meet perfection. The great perfection to me means as it is. The great
As it is.
perfection doesn't mean it's perfect at all. The
Yes.
great perfection laughs at that form of, it's actually using the word great perfection to challenge your idea what perfection is, whether it's in a teacher or yourself.
Yes. That's absolutely true. I mean, like resting in his natural place.
Natural place, in
Yes.
ease. In ease.
At ease, yes, that is really interesting. You mentioned Longchenpa. I think it's brilliant. If we want to talk about some kind of aspects, Longchenpa can be very good example.
Well, great example. He was always, how can I say this? He brought the phenomenon from the early Nyingma tradition, and he integrated it more into Buddhism in its regular ways. He could hold a lot of different things, but he brought, again, the validity of phenomena, the actuality of phenomena, and that may I experience all phenomena as source, that there's no difference between source and phenomena. So we're not leaving phenomena, you with me? But that tradition is very useful for people in certain situations. And for all of us to be able to go into a transcendental state when we're really in bad places is really great.
Yes. Yes, that's why, for example, being in a retreat in a mountain can be extremely challenging, right? Because it will bring our survival, most deep survival mode. And but relating again to the archetypes,
Yes.
I would like to do this to you, like what's your view on contemporary Jungian psychology?
I'm glad you asked that. Okay. And Jung was a fantastic person. He opened all this up on his own. He was a Freudian, and Freud started to enter the archetypal in the very last book of his life, Civilization, where he starts talking about Eros and Thanatos. He had come from Europe, and there had been so much horror, and all these ordinary people creating all these unbelievable tragedies. So he wrote about in Civilization on Eros and Thanatos, the battle in archetypal terms. Yes. Jung, that opened up very early for Jung, and he was studying the medieval alchemists and where the very same things, archetypes started to open to him and the power of the archetypes. And he was saying, okay, is this just a collective and unconscious? Is this just memory? I'm comfortable with this with an ontologist. But then he began writing for all those years, the Red Book. So whatever he did, he wrote the Red Book. And he began to think, wait a minute, this is not just a collective unconscious. It's not just what they call the ontic level, the psychological level. This is ontology. This has to do with the very nature of being itself manifesting all this stuff. This is not my mind manifesting this. This is being manifested in my mind. The kini is not just a feminine fantasy from Mama.
Yes.
The rising in me. And he began to really accept that this had to do with being itself, that this is being, and we're all in relationship to being itself. That's why psychology that doesn't take being itself into its embodiment,
integrating,
is limited.
Embody it, yes, it's
embodied
limited.
is limited. And so many of these profound questions, are just left floating to be held by religion as a belief, with a lot of its evangelical concrete ways of keeping everyone at a concrete operational level. And that concrete operational level can be broken for all of us by the light itself of awareness. That's why this is not an IQ issue. This is not an IQ issue at all. And we think about it that way, but how to open ourselves up to this awareness as this light infuses our mind and starts to open it up. And I've seen this many, many times. The light of awareness opens up our mind, including my own.
Very
and
interesting.
takes us from the concrete operational level. You can think of Piaget and these people where we stay at the concrete operational level, and that has to be challenged for people to go a little further and open themselves up to
creating that space, allowing.
that space and the light and the energy. Then it opens us up. That's why this is spontaneous and it's not earned by merit. You with me? And people think, and when people like to teach that merit, it is not a function of merit, as Dzogchen knows. You don't merit this or working harder.
Yes. It means spontaneity is always very important. The presence of the spontaneity here is very important. Just arising, just manifesting by itself.
And being open to it.
Open, yes.
And feeling it.
Allowing space.
Allowing it, feeling. And it starts to open naturally in the collective.
That's very interesting. Then you say here, you mention like, a person can experience pure being within their own being and pure being within the being of others.
Yes.
Purity is being itself. Can you please give us a more simple idea of this?
Okay, being connected to this primary awareness is really so helpful. And that's the growth for us, you can be enormously intellectual and this never happens for you because you are enormously intellectual.
You create a lot of compartments then.
Yes, and those compartments keep us locked in our mind alone.
Yes, definitely. And also maybe our emotional, how can I say, what is the better word?
Our affects, our affective dimension, our feelings about it. You asked also about therapy. This is really useful.
Yes.
Because all these things bring a tremendous importance. And I actually sent you a paper today I just gave on Donald Winnicott. And in psychoanalysis, he started discovering how can we become aware of awareness to open up what he called transitional space. He was actually talking about Rigpa. So when we enter into awareness of awareness, then we have this space. And if we're in it together, you're my therapist or my helper, then I can feel this with you. So the space opens up and I can feel the superego. There it is, a part of me. It's not here, but it's judgmental. It's really critical. Yes, it came from my father, my mother, grandfather, something. But even just knowing that historically, but what to do with this judgmental, this critical judgment, no matter what. Now, if I don't have this space, I'm going to be it, So with this space, there it is. And I can start to work it. I can have a dialogue with it,
Yes.
You can enter into dialogue with, which is really helpful. The most powerful at all, though, if I can, if I'm holding awareness with you, it's been a trauma, and I start to bring it into my awareness with you. Not that you're so special, but two awarenesses help us hold this stuff. Yes. And then I start to bring it in, and the power of awareness, which was so explicit by Longchenpa in this 11th century, helps us metabolize this. The power of awareness is not, gnosis doesn't mean simply knowing it. The power of gnosis is metabolization of the experience.
Means, that leads me to a question then. So is guru personal or impersonal?
That is the best question of all. The best question of all, because we're going to close our eyes with this one. Because when you go into the guru, and you just go into the guru in ourself, this is very important, that last question, this wholeness. We start to experience wholeness, which is personal. We start to experience being itself is personal. That is
very
liberation.
Interesting.
That's liberation.
Very interesting.
That is liberation.
That's amazing. I could be here,
Thank you.
For hours.
It's very, I love us having these dialogues, because as we have a dialogue like this, then it allows It allows me to go further and to say things I would not have thought. And I love it.
Spontaneously arising, right?
I forgot all the questions. I didn't
even, me too. I have to organize all this, and it's interesting because I have this last question for you, because this question of is the guru personal or impersonal is really interesting.
Fundamental. It's the most fundamental question of all. You with me? Now we went going back to Jung. Jung never quite got out of it. He was great, but reading Jung is a lot of exploration and not so much assimilation. There comes after Jung James Hillman and the Uranus Conference, and a lot of the archetypal psychologists coming there. James Hillman is great, but Jung was always a bit of an analytic person. There was always a bit his love of objectivity. You with me?
Yes.
And that keeps you from being personal. You with me? A lot of analysis, when I'm in my training, this is really weird. This person's sitting here and I'm witnessing him. I must have to switch this around in my life, Great teachers who are analytic but very experiential, influenced by Heidegger, people like that. It's all very personal. It's all who-ness, meeting who-ness. And what that is, not my personality. and Henry Corbin was influenced by Il-Arabi, the Persian, the Islamic mystics, and Sawadi. And I always have to with Il-Arabi's name, and they have a tremendous understanding of the archetypes. James Hillman. So understanding the archetypal is really important for understanding the Dakini. Of the Dakini, because she is a who, and you see people who don't even know anything, but that who-ness arises in them, and that who-ness undercuts intellectual necessity and everything else. Yes, that is true. Unfortunately, many people think Dakini is the wife of a great Lama. Very unfortunately. Very unfortunately. So that's a patriarchal delusion. That honest patriarchal delusion, because actually the Dakini's in me and you, as also is the guru, and it's all within us. And the more they're in us, then we can feel them in each other. Yeah, genuinely. This is really very wonderful. And I would like to ask you to finish this interview, small one. I think first of a group of interviews about many important aspects and talks about phenomenology and psychotherapy, because it's so important. I would love to do that. And I love doing this with you in terms of us having a dialogue, and I can run off and get into my own world talking. But that's wonderful. It's not your own world. It's a world that opens to us. Yes, and so it's our great. World we explore. I just have this last question to you because it's interesting. Like, how do you integrate psychotherapy with the view, conduct, and meditation in Dzogchen? The view, in a certain way, when you read certain of these early Dzogchen texts, there's no view. They say they need to erase the view, because the view is openness. Okay. The view is openness. When Muktananda told me to get beyond my mind, he was destroying my view at that moment. So it's how to have a view without it being simply a belief affecticity state, and how to shift experientially into experience over and over. Liberation in the experience. Conduct. If we look at conduct as a behavior, or if we take it as a view, conduct, and meditation, let's take that and say there's one answer if you're in a transcendental state. There's another answer if you're in a state of eminence, if you're going for eminence. And eminence is relational. This is relational. And you do, and the conduct can only be understood if you're having perception of the person's essence being. If you're in non-duality, then the duality can be understood a bit. Other than that, you're in your superego. Meditation is simply, and it's not unlike phenomenology. First, you want to become aware of awareness. Then you want to integrate your mind into awareness. Then you can experience your circumstances, the events in your life as a source of liberation. Rituals are important, but they're fun. But liberation is through me experiencing the events of my life and the circumstances of my life.
Experiencing.
Yes, it goes back to experience, not just with my mind, though. My mind knows phenomena, my awareness knows being. My mind can see the essence, can know some of the essence of phenomena, but my awareness knows being and illuminates being.
Yes.
And
that brings clarity and space, openness.
It brings same space and openness simultaneously.
Yes. So
we're going back to the same thing over and over again.
So who is the observer?
There is no observer here. Observation, you go up, there is no observer. As soon as you're an observer, as soon as you go into observer, you're going into witness consciousness. You want to deconstruct witness consciousness.
So this is one of the big points, right?
Yes.
In the guru aspect also, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
So this is fantastic. I would like to request you if you could show Chris Wilkinson translation, this book you showed me before. It will be lovely to promote his translations, his work, and especially to bring the book. I don't see the title. Can you put it? Yeah.
Oh, here we go.
Yes, The All-Creating King. Right?
But this book is so readable and so beautiful. Yes. Thank you.
That's true. So I really appreciate our conversation tonight. I really want to thank you from my heart, all your kindness, your generosity of your time here, and this amazing talk. And I just want to thank you so much for all these words, for your kindness, for your knowledge, for sharing with us, and for allowing us also to experience it, because it was part of it.